If you've heard of the Italian Renaissance, you know what I'm talking about when I say the term Renaissance man. This is a lost art in modern society nowadays, being a Renaissance man like Michelangelo or Leonardo da Vinci, among others. Machiavelli, who's also a Renaissance man, although he's remembered more for his writing on politics. But what a Renaissance man is, by that definition, is a polymath, a person who excels across multiple disciplines. These guys were sculptors, they were artists and painters, they were architects. They had all these maybe related but different domains which they were so good at. They say that they consider Galileo to be a Renaissance man. People of the sciences and arts, highly intriguing people who pursued multiple interests and moved the ball forward. They moved the ball down the field. And so now when you go to the Sistine Chapel and you look at the roof with the picture where God's like, ooh, and David's on the other side like, ooh. Or Adam is on the other side. Anyways, you know the painting I'm talking about. Renaissance work of art, and the guy designed the chapel, and then he paints that. So in the modern day, we live in an era of hyper-specialization, and the art of being a Renaissance man is totally lost to us. It has become undiscovered, and it must return, because that's the juice of life. Who are the most interesting people you've ever met? Who among you has cultivated the most lore? That person is a Renaissance man, all right? Someone who played multiple sports and is also a cook and is also, a funny guy to talk to, and is also, it draws a little bit, maybe, is something weird, has some artistic bent, maybe designs some clothes, also is a writer. Look at, now this is not, I don't know, this is a great example, a real life example. Look at a guy like Joe Rogan, who is really interested in jiu-jitsu or whatever he's interested in, maybe just fighting, I don't know, MMA. He gets interested in MMA, and so he's like, all right, well, I'm gonna fight, is when he's a younger man, I'm gonna fight, and then also I'm gonna start announcing it. He's a comedian, he enjoys being a comedian, and so he does stand-up comedy, obviously becomes, quite famous for this podcast where he hops on and speaks with guests of all different disciplines and backgrounds because he finds it interesting. He talks about how he likes to go hunting and archery. He talks about, obviously fitness, very into fitness. He talks about aliens. He's a studier of aliens, alien theory, if you will. And basically, this is a guy who's just pulled in the direction of all of his interests. When most would hyper specialize, nowadays most would be hyper specialized into, well, if you're going to be an MMA guy, you should be an MMA guy. Or if you're going to be a hunter or a fighter, whatever, you should just be that, what you're going to be. But here's a guy whose uniqueness across all his domains is characterized by the amount of different stuff he does. That's very interesting. Look at, now I could be wrong about this. I could be thinking of a different guy, but let me get to the point here. Dame Lillard, NBA player. He's very good at his shot. I'm not a huge NBA guy. Games are too high scoring for me. You can't get excited about a 2 or a 3 when the final score is going to be like 120 to 122. Maybe till the end, you can get excited. Besides the point, Dame Lillard, also a rapper. released a mixtape or something like that. That's pretty cool, you know? I have respect for a guy who does one thing and then says, nah, I'm also a rapper. And so he decides that he's just gonna start rapping. That's extremely cool. That's something we need more of nowadays, because when you're a kid in this era of time, really you're expected to hyper specialize. You're expected to do one thing extremely well. You kind of start, Doogie barking threw me off my game, but you're expected to, you know, play one sport and play it seasons around. You know, if you want to be a football player, you're expected to play football in season and train on it and specialize in it in the off season. When you're in elementary school and they're basically going around shoving instruments in your hand, like, do you like the clarinet? Do you like the cello? Do you like all this? You know, I feel like they teach you hot cross buns on it. Hot cross buns. You're kind of expected to pick your lane, stay in your lane. There's not a lot of exploration that occurs once you're even already in high school. At that point, it's about building the resume for college, if that's your path. If it's not your path, well, learn how to be an electrician, do nothing else. No other interests, you know? The onus is on you to develop those other interests. So we live in an era of hyper specialization, where you're built for one thing. You're funneled down the path to do one thing and one thing only. But that's not any way to cultivate lore or live an exciting life, even though you may be able to get very far doing that one thing. That's exciting. That's cool. And it works. That's a lifestyle that works for a lot of people. But if you don't get that far down the path, what are you going to do? And even if you do, and you're so truly one-dimensional, you just lose the zest of life. You get burnt out in your work. You just go down that path and you're ramming your head against the wall. Wonder why nothing sticks. Unless you're that rare exception. That rare exception. But hell, I'm sure even Tom Brady had other interests besides throwing the football. He just had the interest in throwing the football first and foremost among them. Now that he's retired, Renaissance man, does things, does announcing, YouTube, and all sorts of stuff, travels around, spends time with his family. That's a good thing, spending time with the family. Hell, I don't know. Nick Saban in the sports world said it. Saban, famous coach, very famous for his success. Saban said that he was always impressed, or perhaps more impressed, by a guy who played 3 sports rather than that hyper specialist. For a while we were pushed down that path, but now recently, this was in the past couple months, to hear somebody so great, with such great gravitas, talking about how important it is to actually play multiple different sports. Very exciting. Look at this doogie. It's freaking out over there. Well, not this one. Morty, calm down, buddy. They just get going, these 2 boys. Hyper-specialized barkers. This one, by the way, he doesn't know it, the big boy, the big rumbler, but he needs to have a teeth appointment today. Actually, when I got out, oh my goodness, look at them. Chasing a squirrel, living life. It's rather frustrating, but they're very cute boys. Anyways, big boy needs a tooth appointment. So after I finish filming this video, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take him to the vet. See him later today. I'll have cleaner teeth. But let me calm down this insurrection here, and I'll be back. I'm gonna switch gears for a little bit. I've always found it funny that dogs, because those are such cute little boys, you know? One of them is kind of a big rumbler, and the other one compliments him by being like the athlete, the one that darts around left and right, that kind of thing. But especially the small one loves barking. And it's like, I kind of respect it, because it's like you gotta fight your own fights. You gotta act big, even in the moment, you know, even when the moment is too big for you, you know? Because you can see on his face, you walk him and run into a bigger dog, and he might bark, he might freak out at first. But when he gets close, the moment's a little too big for him, and he has a tendency to shy away. It's a little sad. But the thing that confuses me is he, barks at the same mailman every day. There's something going on in the yard. Perceives it as a threat. Day one, I understand that, but we're on day 500 something. Barking at the same stimulus? Come on, man. You gotta develop a little pattern recognition for me, buddy. Very good boys, though. I'm glad I got to show you them. So, back to the Renaissance man conversation. I feel like we're just kind of stuck in this era where everyone feels like they can only do one thing at a high level. It's actually important to be the person who's excellent at your job, but who's also able to hop on the grill and make a nice burger. Maybe someone who's also a naturalist, who has a great understanding of the great outdoors, certain local biomes and weather patterns. To be someone who's well-read, is able to tell stories. These are important attributes and aspects. To be someone who's cultivated lore is an important thing. And I'll tell you why. It's not just for superficial show-offery. It's not even a word, but it's not just for the superficial aspect of flexing. It's important to be well-versed and be dynamic in this way because it lends itself to natural confidence and competence when interacting with the world. The person who's tried a bunch of things can appreciate how hard it is to do so many things. The person who's tried a bunch of things has had plenty of successes and failures and believes in themselves and their ability to not only interact in the world, but their ability to immerse in it. They're a seasoned adventurer. They're someone who's adventuremaxx, the Renaissance man is. And so when you carry yourself with that demeanor, it's subconscious. It's not the kind of thing where it's like, I'm leaving the house today, I got to put my demeanor on, like you put on a coat. This is very different. This is something you carry with you. It's built and developed by experiences. Gives you full confidence that when you go out in the world, you know exactly who you are because you've been battle tested. Because you're a Renaissance individual, an adventuremaxxer. You're someone who's done this at the highest level and the lowest level across many different domains for a number of years. That's a certain level of aura that must be cultivated. If you have that, it's an X factor and a superpower as you go out into the world. If you don't have that, you may be weak. You may be like the Japanese hikikomori, the shut-in, which is a sad existence. If you don't know what that is, by the way, look it up. A phenomenon uniquely in Japan. I didn't mean to call out the Japanese nation. Beautiful country, by the way. I recommend you go. But there's a phenomenon in Japan called hikikomori. This is a person who has sheltered themselves away from the world entirely. The polar opposite, if you will, of a Renaissance man adventuremaxxer. They might even have multiple interests or hobbies, but it seems like what it mostly boils down to is someone who spends too much time inside playing video games and they haven't seen anyone in like 6 years. Order their food to the door and that kind of thing. Maybe live in the parents' basement. We have them in America too. We do. I'm sure they exist across the modern world because in this era of convenience and of screens, you can get pulled into being that person. You can shrink back within your shell, safety and comfort of it, and you can still activate your dopamine receptors with fake stimuli, comfort. You don't actually have to go into the world necessarily to feel that. You once did. You once had to go in the world to get food. Now you don't. You can DoorDash it to your door. So that's no way to live. I hope we can agree on that. There's so much juice and zest out there. But so many people, even the ones who step out in the world, they don't capitalize on that. They don't see what the world has to offer them. They get stuck in a self-limiting narrow box where they believe certain things to be true about themselves. I'm good at this, I'm not good at that. And these are fake, not dynamic. You can be good at multiple things. You don't need to be hyper-specialized. You don't need to be only your job and that's it. You can be someone who says, yeah, I like competing in spelling bees. I also love pickup basketball. What about that? What about that guy? It's pretty cool, if you ask me. Adds a depth to character. Oh yeah, I also speak Spanish. On top of spelling bees and pickup basketball. And I work in banking. Very interesting. This person has layers. This fictional individual who I'm creating has layers of intrigue, has unique lore. Can you say that list? Well, I can't say that list about myself, but do you have a unique list you can say about yourself? And if you go down your list, how many things have you actually tried? Have you actually put an effort to? Wait, I do enjoy cooking, but I never cook. There's a lot of people who've thought that over the years, huh? I do enjoy gardening. I think I would at least, because I like the way plants look. You can go to Home Depot and buy them off the shelf. Or you can do your local garden center a favor. Now this is a unique thing about the business model of Home Depot, is a little side quest. I think garden centers like pay Home Depot for shelf space in many cases, and so when you actually buy a plant from Home Depot, they then pay out the garden center or something for that plant that gets sold. So it's a better deal for your local garden center if you just go to your garden center. So forget what I said in the first place, but you're telling me you think you like gardening and didn't know you could pop down to your local garden center and just buy a plant? That's crazy. That's crazy. You have so many interests untapped. The point of all this is don't leave those untapped interests untapped. Your interests are like a keg of beer and you're at a party. Life is a party. Life is adventure. So you have this massive tap of interests, keg of interests, and it's just sitting there. And the party's waiting to get flowing, but you're being stale and rigid because you're just focused on one thing that you're focused on. And you've forgot about the fact for years that you like playing chess and that you're interested in reading books and that you once had a science experiment that did pretty well as a kid and you want to like do more science or something. I don't know. I'm just making it up. But you're at the party of life and you have this keg of interests, massive keg. And you have the means to tap it because you're you. You're the only one with the secret key. You're the only one who can tap it because you're you. Right now, you may be saying, no, I don't want to tap that keg. I feel safe even with just my one domain or one interest. I'm not going to pursue anything else. But the people who get the most out of the party are the people who tap the keg. I'm not promoting alcoholism. If you have a problem with that, that's up to you to deal with, and I commend your strength. But to use the example, tap the keg of you and your interests and let the juice flow so that you can enjoy the party of life. Become a Renaissance man, adventuremaxx, or a woman. Maybe you become a Renaissance woman. Doesn't matter. Explore your interests to the fullest of their potential because they deserve it. You deserve to be that fully fleshed out version. The person who does all the things that are up in the mind. It's the truth. It's the true nature of the beast, baby. Come on now.